One of the most valuable governance processes for project managers is the stage gate review, or sometimes referred to as a project gateway review or a boundary gate review. We use gateway reviews to make sure, firstly, that we don't move forward in our project until we're ready, until we've done everything we need to do to be ready for the next stage. And secondly, to make sure that when we do move forward, it's the right thing to do. The circumstances haven't changed in the environment, and that the project is still a good investment, or that we haven't learned something during the earlier stages of our project which now compromise the original vision. In this video, therefore, I want to talk about how to run an effective stage gate review. Every organisation that has stage gate reviews will have its own process. If you are developing one from scratch, or if you need to understand them, then it's worth noting that a typical generic stage gate review process is likely to have something like 5 components. The first component is establishing the process. It's getting the team together, discussing terms of reference, setting dates, and talking about the kinds of questions that are going to be asked and the criteria that will be used to assess the evidence. So the establishment step is first, and that will be followed by a planning step, where the review members get together to plan how they're going to conduct each of the reviews. And you'll probably do them one review at a time, but it may set out a kind of program. And that planning meeting needs to look at who the review team want to meet, how long they want to spend, what sort of questions they want to ask, what sort of information they're going to request in advance of the review. And of course, essential is the criteria that they're going to apply to each specific stage gate. Step 3 is evidence submission. This is where the project manager will collate a set of evidence to present to the review team. The review team members will individually review that evidence, and they will formulate their own initial judgments, but critically will collate together a set of questions that they're going to want to place to the project manager and to the project manager's senior team members at the gateway review. The fourth component is the stage gate review itself. This is the meeting where the review team sit down with the project manager, the project sponsor, and they ask their questions. My guidance is this: whilst it necessarily needs to be a question and answer session, shouldn't be seen as an interrogation. It shouldn't be hostile. It should be done in a collegiate, collaborative manner, because the purpose of a stage gate review is not to threaten or to challenge the project manager, but to find out how aware the project manager is of the state of their project, and where there are issues, how prepared the project manager is to tackle those issues and to get back in control of those aspects of their project. The final, 5th component of the stage gate review process is the production of a findings report. The gateway review members will sit down and discuss what they have heard. Any questions they feel haven't been answered, they may issue some supplementary written questions, but they'll collate all of their evidence, all of their findings into a report, which fundamentally is about making the go, no-go recommendation, based principally on, are we ready to move forward? And if we are, is it the right thing to do to move forward? And it will also make recommendations, either remedial recommendations for things that need to be done by the project team in order to pass the stage gate, or if they are passing the project through the stage gate, there may be recommendations to improve the project process and structures in the next stage. Following publication of the stage gate review report, I would expect the project manager to sit down with the sponsor to discuss the findings and to talk about what they need to do differently as a result, if anything, and then the project manager would then take that discussion to their senior team, project team leaders, have similar discussion, and kind of channel the different recommendations down the different work streams to make sure that everything that the stage gate review has found that the project team can do better are put into practice. Therefore, the stage gate review becomes very much a practical process for improving the project rather than just a governance process, important though that is. So I've said that the stage gate review process needs to be backwards looking and forwards looking, to look back at what the project has achieved to see if it is ready to move on, and forwards looking to assess whether it is still the right thing to do for the project to continue. Let's take a brief look at the sorts of information a stage gate review team should be looking at to consider their judgments for each of those. Looking backwards is all about comparing actual progress with the planned progress, the anticipated progress. So you're going to be drawing into the review process things like your project definition or terms of reference or project initiation document, your project mandate, also the business case. And certainly the further the project goes on through the life cycle, looking at whether the benefits or value that is identified in the business case are being delivered. The project plan and the work breakdown structure or product breakdown structure and the product specifications are going to be important, as indeed are quality specifications. And of course, if you're into delivery, we might be looking also at test scripts and test results to ensure that the products are meeting the required standards. So the ideal outcome for this stage of the review is for the review team to accept that the project has done everything that it should have done in the stage that has come to an end. If it hasn't, it may specify additional work or rework or retesting, some sort of remedial action. Assuming none of that is needed, the review team will then start asking questions about whether what has changed since the project started, what we've learned, how the environment has changed, whether any of that casts any doubt on whether we should continue. So what information will they need to help them to make those judgments? Well, the first thing has to be what the project team has learned. So I'd be expecting to see lessons learned logs, but also talk to project managers and possibly even workstream leaders about how the project has evolved and whether there have been any changes, either changes in requirement from the client and the users, or whether technical changes have been needed in order to respond to those requirements as difficulties have been found and resolved. But there may be external changes which mean that no matter how well the project is going, the context within which it sits is different, and therefore the project may not be as valid as it was originally thought to be. So we should be looking at things like stakeholder, customer, user requirements and how they may have shifted. What new technology is out there? How has the technological landscape shifted? What about commercial considerations or financial or resource constraints that weren't there when the project was initially planned? And maybe there are changes to legislation or regulation or external standards of some sort, or perhaps health and safety or security concerns. Any changes can affect the decision as to whether the project is still viable and advisable. From the project's point of view, the desired outcome is, of course, approval to proceed, which may be unconditional or it may be conditional upon some changes. And in some organisations, approval to proceed at a stage gate review could also come with approval to draw down additional funds to meet the costs of the next stage of the project. The last thing I'd say is there is an additional benefit of a stage gate process which you need to harness, which is that actually it's a way to identify lessons learned along the way, because your project is now being observed by objective external observers taking a step back. So it makes sense to me for the project sponsor and the project manager to sit down with at least one member of the review team after the process is completed to draw down any lessons that the review team has identified that may not be formally noted in the recommendations report, so that they can then add those to their own lessons learned register and implement them on the project. So that's how we conduct a gateway review. It's an important part of project governance, it's an important part of project learning, but fundamentally, it's a great way for you as a project manager to feel more in control of your project. If you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss any future videos. And in the meantime, I look forward to seeing you in the next one.